Welcome back to The Endless Stream. As usual, I'm Aidan and I am joined by Kevin and Brian. Each week we take a selection of the endless stream of content brought to you through Netflix, Amazon Prime, YouTube, Spotify. Wherever there is streaming content to be had, we're going to watch a chunk of it and we're going to talk about it. This week we're primarily talking about Sweet Tooth and Loki. The conversations we have are fairly spoiler heavy, so if you haven't watched these shows, maybe go off and have a look at them and come back to us. We talk about comic books, we talk about trailers, we talk about Brian's trip to London, so we wander all over the place this week a little bit, so it's a good fun episode. If you like what you hear, please consider subscribing to the podcast or giving us a follow over on Instagram or Twitter. All of our socials are at The Endless Cast. We do drawings and playback videos and clips of the show over there, so it's a little additional content for you there. All of that being said, let's jump into the episode. So the first thing I want to do starting the episode is I want to thank Cree Burrows for joining us last week. She was a big hit. I've spoke to a number of people who have listened to it and they're just like, she's great. She brought a real positive energy to it. And, you know, I've one mate who's like, I'm going to go buy some Buffy comics off the back of her recommendation. So thanks very much, Cree.
Thanks, Cree.
And welcome back, Brian. And
hello. I'm back. To take away all that positivity and Buffy praise. It's gone now. I have returned with a gravelly voice.
I love you, Brian.
Very gravelly. I'm going to do this for the entire podcast. I probably won't do it for the entire podcast.
That's all right.
We'll see.
Okay.
Anyway.
What are your thoughts on Joss Whedon and his association with Buffy? Let's move on.
He goes to England for bloody 1 week and he comes back as Littlefinger.
Kevin, are you implying I sound a bit like Aidan Gillen? A good friend, Aidan Gillen.
We run in the same circles. Yes, go on.
I went to London and they kept asking me to say 33 and a third. So I had to change my voice.
That's awful. I've often been tattooing American people, and they would like, "Oh, can you say like 33 and a third?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I can't say it." Irish people can say whatever words too.
But Kevin, you can't say it.
I can't say it, but I can say lots of words.
It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah. The thing is, I can say them. I just speak too fast to actually get them out coherently.
You're tongue-tied.
Obstacle. Compartmentalize.
Your tongue is too tight. You need to get a bit of a Aidan Gillen. Protect, embrace your inner Aidan Gillen.
Nope. Awful advice.
Alright, well, where were we?
Crisp.
The builders next door, despite being basically quiet for an hour, have, now that we've decided to hit record, started
Beautiful.
Banging a hammer.
Love it.
Or banging a shovel against a...
I love that for us.
It's a good sound. It's industrial chic.
Leave off,
industrial chic. Brian always did like Ramsey.
So Brian has been away for the last sort of little bit. Any highlights? Anything you'd recommend to the listeners to do when they're in London?
God, I mean, London's huge. This is my third time in London, and I'm still seeing new stuff. And I've mostly been in one place, and I'm seeing new things in one place. It's insane.
It does have the population of Ireland doubled.
It's bonkers.
It's a large city, so plenty to see, plenty to do, and plenty to see again because it's large.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess
just said it much better than I ever could. I think. Okay.
Yeah.
What's one thing you've done that you recommend to people?
One thing. Jesus, it was such a packed 2 weeks.
What's one thing you've done?
I've done so many things. I've been on a pizza tour of London. I've tried.
Oh, that's exciting!
Don't get the bottomless pizza. It's a scam.
So
scam.
Hold on. Was that an actual organized event, or did you just choose to go to as many pizza restaurants as you can go to?
It was loosely organized, let's say.
Okay.
I went to a bottomless pizza thing before. Basically, I fucking hated it, right? Because the kitchen door, one side of the restaurant, we were sitting on the opposite side of the restaurant. servers would come out of the kitchen with the pizzas, give them to everybody, and then come down to us and be like, "Oh, we only have one slice left," or "We only have."
That's basically what happened to me. It was just.
It's a nightmare. It's like, change your approach up. See that, like, the first time you gave it to these people, go to the back and work your way over. And they just kept on giving it. The first table was getting everything that they wanted and multiple slices of it if they liked it. You know what I mean? It's just like bullshit. Sorry, Brian.
No, you're right. It's a scam.
Was it multiple different pizza places?
Well, only one place did. Well, no, I mean, I'm sure loads of places did.
But you did go to a number of different places on
this
pizza tour.
On a pizza tour of London. It was not.
So what I'm trying to get to is, which was your favorite place?
Do you know what? Like,
which was a place? You vague motherfucker.
Look,
you acting like you hid the rebel plan somewhere, and I'm trying to find out.
Look. Like, we can get into.
He really is all gone little fingery.
We
never tell anyone anything.
We can get into.
They'll use it against you.
We can get into this now if you want, but like look, Neapolitan is the best pizza, right? And then there's like a
for the non-cultured listeners, what's a Neapolitan?
It's the Napoli style of pizza,
go fuck yourself.
Which is when most people picture, like, you know, the quintessential pizza, they're probably picturing unless they're.
Are you talking about margaritas? Are you just eating margaritas?
Of course, I'm just fucking eating margaritas. I'm not a savage.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, you're.
Why would you put a bunch of other shit on a pizza? It's fucking stupid.
You're talking to the wrong guy, muchacho.
So,
seafood.
Anyway,
I'm trying to impose structure. A Neapolitan is what?
A Neapolitan.
Probably a margarita
Neapolitan
or something.
Just means like from Naples, Napoli style.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Which,
so it's the particular
toppings wise.
Toppings wise, it can be any toppings. Like it can be like you can throw anything on a pizza. Obviously, it's more to do with the kind of the type of the dough. The kind of chewiness and crispiness of the dough, and then
because you like your pizzas, Brian, with just tomato sauce, rocket, and a sprinkle of cheese.
Rocket.
Yeah.
Right now, you know.
Yeah, he loves that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So you like a Neapolitan pizza, Neapolitan style pizza. You can put any topping on a Neapolitan style pizza that you would like. Yeah. You went to a number of different pizza restaurants.
Yeah.
Which was your favorite?
This is what I'm saying. Is that anywhere that does a good Neapolitan pizza, it's then pretty hard to differentiate because there's like a bare standard where if you're making it in this style, then it's just kind of going to be pretty good. And it's, you know, differentiating it then, you know, you don't want to do too much because then you're just overcomplicating shit, you know. So I would say that to be honest, they were all good except the Gordon Ramsay one, which was the one with the bottomless pizza. They're kind of two base ones. They're like pepperoni pizza and their margarita pizza were the weakest of the pizzas that were on offer. His
from Gordon Ramsay. So was that his restaurant?
No, it's just he's got a couple of these places doing this bottomless pizza thing. I think it's called Street Pizza. Went to the one in Camden, and the cheese on the margarita and on the margarita, let's say, let's keep it simple. The cheese on the margarita was kind of orange instead of like white or kind of yellow, you know. And it's like, why is the cheese orange, mate? This is supposed to be fior di latte, mozzarella.
It was cheddar cheese,
and it was probably a bit of cheddar in there, I reckon. Yeah, it was orange, and I was like, get that shit off my fucking Neapolitan pizza, motherfucker. If I want this shit, I'll go to Domino's.
So Ramsay Street Pizza wasn't for you?
Not for me. That was my least. It's probably easier to say what my least favorite one was than my favorite, and it would be Ramsay Street Pizza.
Okay. So then, to inject some of that Cree Burrows positivity, which was one you liked?
To be honest, there's one Franco Manca, great. There is one apparently Julia Roberts goes to it in Eat, Pray, Love. They've got one or two in London. Went to the one on Baker Street where they have a Sherlock Holmes thing. It's something along the lines of Pizza da Michel, so like pizza by Michel basically. Cool. That was really good. Really quick service. The restaurant was bonkers. It was like, it's like walking into a casino in Las Vegas in the 80s or something. But this, or like our pizza came out before our drinks, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but you know, that was kind of funny. But the pizza was great. Franco Manca, Pizza da Michelle. Went to a place in Hove yesterday called Fatto Amano or something like that, meaning handmade. They had a great Neapolitan pizza, really good Negronis too. That was good.
You went, which means, and in my head I went sincerely, what it obviously means fat man pizza.
Mano meaning hands, you swine.
Okay,
yeah. Look, like I said, Neapolitan pizza, if they do it right, you can't go wrong. So if somewhere says
Sure.
Neapolitan pizza, go to it. Don't fall for the bottomless pizza thing. It's a scam. That'd be my thing, I guess.
Best pizza ever, Harold's Cafe. They were pretty good. They're gone now, I think.
They're long gone.
And yeah, they're long gone. Harold's Cafe, it was great. And they used to do this like 4-cheese pizza with blue cheese, gorgonzola, brie, and ghost cheese or something,
Kevin
along
is
with
an
their like
animal.
regular. Yeah, and then
Where's Harold's Cafe?
Harold's
Just
Cross.
outside Harold's Cross.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, and then I used to get that pizza, but mix it with their seafood pizza. So I'd have anchovies, tuna, prawns, clams,
Like I said, the man is an
mussels,
animal.
octopus, and it was great though because obviously quite a particular order, and I'd order quite frequently. And by the time, say,
Goat's cheese and octopus were on the same pizza, is what you're
yes,
telling me.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and
Savage.
sometimes double anchovies because, but they'd send me like really great pizzas because they were obviously just like, well, I ordered it a lot, and they recognized obviously that I was ordering a lot, so they used to give me like, you know, bits extra. It's the only people who ever really cared about me.
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
Yeah, I
What was
didn't catch you on the road.
The best thing about that pizza though is you never have to share it. Nobody is even remotely interested in or
This is
curious
like
to try
goat's
it.
cheese and
This is like saying if
Yeah.
you poison your meals, you never have to share them with anybody else. Like that's
Yeah.
not the soundest logic to me.
No, debatable. I did eat a lot of it by myself, so I never had to share. It's great.
How did you feel afterwards? Be honest.
After the pizzas, pretty freaking good. Only one time I got sad, but there was
Don't lie to me.
an
Don't
advert.
lie to me. I watched you make a sandwich that you fried in a frying pan in a wheel of cheese, and then you put anchovies in it, and you ate half of it, and you almost died.
No, that was a packet of bacon.
Was it bacon?
That was a bacon, blue cheese, bread,
Loaf of bread
that I cut in half.
that you cut in half, that you fried.
Yeah.
He did this in my home, by the way. He did this in my home.
did.
He fried a wheel of blue cheese in my house.
Yeah. And then
Unacceptable.
a packet of rashers. Yeah, and then I was either too sick or something to finish it, but I finished it later or the next day. I can't remember.
I just love. How did you feel afterwards? Mostly fine. Sometimes a little sad.
Yeah, well, it would depend on how lonely I was, because like you could be like long day, pretty eating a big pizza, then you're pretty lonely because you're eating alone again, and it's like a pizza you'll never share. Maybe that's why you do it, because you have no one to share it, and even if you did, you wouldn't share. That's what you tell yourself, but really, it's just you're just trying to protect your emotions. But yeah, then you just watch TV, and then maybe there's a happy couple doing something happy, and it'll make me sad, and I'd be like, I'm just this fat fucking eating this pizza again that no one wants except for me.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. What was that?
I feel like we're glossing over the fact that you fried a wheel of blue cheese
I did find it. I quite often would just buy cheese and
in my
steak.
house.
Yeah,
In my house. In the place where I
it's
live.
not the worst thing I've done in your house.
So there's a lot of stuff on Netflix this week. They were doing the Geeked Week thing. There was loads of announcements. Trying to gloss over it. Well, move on from the
You're
wheel
still
of
chucking the
cheese.
wheel of cheese. The smell. Aiden, the smell. The smell.
People shouldn't judge each other for eating cheese. Can make you sick though.
I was just on
And
a
sad.
pizza tour of London, so like there's no judgment.
Yeah, you don't have cheese in your pizzas. You're a weirdo. Brian doesn't like cheese in his pizza. Brian
This
likes
is
the dough and the
this
powder.
is slander.
I've seen you eat pizza. They were pathetic.
Are you lactose intolerant?
They were mostly red.
You got a standard pizza. We've got to move on from fucking pizza.
This is why I didn't want to say which one was my favorite, because we would just be here too long.
Bride's a margarita guy.
Yes.
Now I'm a vegan guy. But
I guess rather than getting into the Geeked Week stuff, which I didn't pay a huge amount of attention to because there was 5 days of announcements and lots of fucking stuff to wade through. Some of the highlights of the week, I guess, there was the trailer for Masters of the Universe, which is showrun by Kevin Smith for some reason. I don't grudge him the work, as long as they don't start...
He asked for it, I believe. As
long as they don't start having Clerk-style conversations about the bureaucracy that runs Castle Grayskull, I'll be fine. Just do a He-Man show,
It's cool. I watched the trailer. I thought it was very cool. It's cool to see kind of some of these characters again. It's a little bit of a different take, of course, and I think animation-wise and stuff, but it's cool to see like kind of they diversified it a bit more, and the music was awesome.
It's a good choice, the song. My thought on it was this Masters of the Universe property's been around a while, and there's
40 years.
There's the urban legend that they were trying to make action figures for Conan, and then they saw Conan and went, we can't sell toys to kids off the back of this, so they made Masters of the Universe. I don't know if that's true.
I've heard it a lot.
But that's the story I remember hearing, yeah.
I don't think that's true, because I had Terminator toys.
Okay. That would have been later, though. That would have been Terminator 2. Terminator 2 is a much softer movie than...
It was Terminator 2, yeah.
Terminator 2, I think,
Alien
was
toys?
possibly...
Yeah, I mean, for Conan, you're talking 1981 or 82 or something, and you're dealing with like a post-Star Wars thing where they just realised that they can market toys off the back of movies in a significant way.
Terminator 2 would have been 12s. That rating didn't exist. No, what I mean is, it would have been a 12s movie if that rating existed at the time.
Today.
It was just a little too high for PG, and it didn't necessarily warrant a kind of a 15s, but probably would have been, yeah. But I'm saying it's not a hard. I mean, there was Aliens toys as well, after.
That's what I'm saying,
but that was 90s onwards. Conan would have been early 80s. So.
Well, I think the Aliens toys would have come after the Aliens comics, the Aliens video games, and they sort of crept into, consciousness at that point. I remember the fucking Rambo cartoon, and I was like, this is about a veteran with PTSD tearing up a small American town. Like, Rambo went so sideways. But I guess the point that I was going to make there was there's about I think it was a remake of He-Man in about 2007, 2010, somewhere there.
I just said, He-Man.
They made another version of the show, and that was fun. I quite liked that, but it wasn't as accurate to what this looks like in the 80s thing. This looks like they took the 80s He-Man, turned it up to 11, and are trying to give us what we remember that show as.
The version in our heads.
You remember that show as being a big action thing, but it's really like the same walk cycle animated, flipped 3 or 4 times.
The same toy advert.
Killed 10 million. Yeah, it's a lot of reuse animation, and it's really, really hard to go back and look at any of it. So it looks like they have taken that show, turned it up to 11, and are giving us the show we remember in our heads, which is cool. But that will have been the 3rd iteration of He-Man as like a high-intensity sort of action-style kids show. So if they now do a sort of Thundercats Go type thing,
are they just trying to sell
goofy,
this to us, or like are we the audience here?
Yes, because in the trailer they're like 40 years, blah blah blah. So like we are the demographic.
That's depressing.
Master of the Universe, pretty sexy cartoon.
Yeah,
pretty sexy. It's probably like the least clothes I've ever seen in any show.
That seems right.
It is very not much clothes going on, not at all. Orko.
Orso.
Nah, Orko, the little fella.
Was it Orso?
I don't know. My older brother is a massive He-Man fan, and still kind of collects the different like stuff that comes out now and all that kind of thing, So I think he's pretty excited for the show, because I think the show comes out like in a week or two. But I kind of, a part of me is just kind of like, it's funny kind of how to go with it, because is it going to be a little bit meta in the sense of like kind of it knows it's taking the like, is it going to be kind of like self-aware, or like it knows it's a little bit kind of, it's based on something kind of campy and like over the top, very
That's
80s.
the impression I
Is it
get.
gonna be like
Like
that?
even
Does it take it seriously? You know,
like down to the choice of song that they
song.
used, which was good, but
Mm.
I think it
Yeah,
kind of sets a tone that this knows what it is and knows kind of how silly potentially that the concept is, but how much fun it can also be as well at the same time. Like,
yeah, it could be like I said. Yeah, it could be good fun. You
yeah,
know, because like I think so they had the original cartoon in the 40s, right, or the 40s, in the 80s, right?
there was definitely what Aiden just said there, that this will be the third. Or has there been three iterations of it, or that this will be the third iteration? There was definitely one anyway, somewhere in the middle, like in the 90s probably. I'm assuming we're thinking of the same version, and I'd imagine it was a late 90s, maybe early 2000s kind of thing.
Yeah, there was one of them that was far more spacey and space
Yeah,
orientated.
yeah,
So you've just been pretty much walking around London eating pizza.
kind of. I mean, I've been doing other things too, like
But no, but like that's fine, Brian. I don't judge you.
I had other dinners too.
You're with a fellow foodie here, you know. I'm not talking about fucking carbonara and running out and getting some parmigiano. I'm talking about pizza with cheese and fish. You know what I'm saying?
I do, unfortunately.
Yes.
I wish I didn't, but I do. We should probably get back onto. I mean,
Aiden might be disappointed.
Aiden be disappointed
if
if he comes back and he learns that we're still talking about pizza.
Yeah.
Master of None.
Master of None. I've not seen the latest season. How many seasons of it now? 3 or 4?
This is season 3.
Yeah, I've seen season 1 and 2 then. I thought season 1 was
Yeah,
brilliant.
I liked season 2 also, but season 1 was certainly stronger. Master of None, season 3 focuses on Denise, Aziz, and I think it's Lena Waithe who plays Denise. They wrote every episode together, and Aziz directed it. And the kind of subtitle of the season is Moments. It's either Moments of Love or Moments in Love. It's one or the other. And it's kind of 5 episodes. The first episode is an hour long. And the rest of them are a bit shorter, but it's kind of like 5 episodes that are a little snapshot of moments of a relationship. It's good.
Okay.
I quite liked it. I've only watched the 4 episodes of the 5 so far, so I've still yet to watch the last one, but I'm enjoying it, and if you're a fan of the previous 2 seasons, it's made in much the same style. It's got very similar. It's got the same kind
Beats.
of vibe and kind of mood. It's in 4:3 ratio for some reason. Don't know why. And I believe it is shot in London, but it's London to pass as New York, I believe. And it's
There's a movie with Chloe Martinez. I think that's her name. Martinez. Is that her name? Kick-Ass?
Chloe Moritz Grace, is it? Moritz?
Oh, but that lady. So basically, there's a movie with her called Greta, and I don't know if you've heard of it. It's based in New York,
Right.
but it's shot in Dublin.
God.
Man, I've watched the whole thing and I didn't realize it at all.
Serious?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. I didn't realize it at all.
I was watching.
So like, fair is fair.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, you know, it's more believable to make like London, New York, than Dublin, New York.
The couple that it focuses on, I'm assuming now it's supposed to be upstate New York, right? But from like the opening shot, it's like, that's England. Like they're living on a farm basically, and it's so clearly
Not America.
it's so clearly England. And then Denise's partner, I think the character's name is Gloria, is played by a British actress anyway. So it's just like
Gloria.
Gloria.
Yes, it's a good song.
But yeah, so it's like, okay, I guess they've relocated to England, and it's kind of playing out this way, and it's just the two of them for most of the episode, and then Ansari's character Dev shows up kind of about 3/4 of the way through, and he kind of mentions that they say, oh, we know it's a long drive to get out here. I was like, I assume they mean the airport and not New York City,
Yeah,
because they're
yeah,
clearly
yeah.
not in.
They're not in New
This is
York
not
State
upstate
anymore.
New
Yeah,
York at all. And then there's a
yeah.
later episode, and it's just focusing on the character, and she is trying to get pregnant, and it's mostly her in her apartment or her in like a hospital, a room in a hospital somewhere, and it's like, this is clearly London and not New York, even down to the fact that like
Okay.
one of the people working at the hospital, it was kind of clever. They cast somebody with a like a kind of a Jamaican or West Indies accent to hide the fact that
Hmm.
she probably has a
They're not
British
in.
accent, that they're not
Yeah,
American.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, it's like from that point on in the episode, I was just like trying to clock every single shot that was like giving away that this isn't
Yeah,
America.
watch Greta. It's on Netflix,
That's
I think. I
bonkers.
believe it's on Netflix now. And I wish I didn't say it to you. Would you have noticed? You probably would have noticed. To be fair, you're far more reserved than I would be. But I hadn't got a fucking clue. I think Emer at one stage was just kind of like one part of it looked really familiar to her, but I think she said that after the
I'll
fact.
have to
Maybe I
check
don't
that
know.
out
But
afterwards. That's hilarious.
yeah, yeah, the whole thing, man, is shot in. Oh, maybe actually Emer didn't know, because like I was saying how it was shot in Dublin. Actually, some of it was shot in Powers Court, and she worked in Powers Court
Yeah.
before, But it's hilarious that yeah, it's like you would. I didn't know. It's mental. And I think they use like some shots from Canada and different things like that, like from a train station in Canada and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part,
Yeah.
it was kind of shot on location in Dublin and Wicklow and stuff. Nuts, absolutely bizarre.
I haven't watched the last episode yet. They've never kind of definitively said that they're like where they're supposed to be set, but it's just, I could be wrong. Maybe they mentioned it kind of at some point and I missed it. But
They should have gotten Brad Pitt in as one of the doctors or nurses, and he can talk to whoever in
yeah,
accents.
in Meet Joe Black.
Yeah, that wasn't outrageously an outrageously terrible idea at
Not
all.
at all. Totally
Not at
fine.
all. Oh my
If you
god!
haven't
It's
seen Meet Joe Black, you have to watch it just to see him. I mean, everybody's probably seen it by now where he gets hit.
well, I didn't see it till last
Oh,
year,
really?
so yeah.
I saw that because my sisters wanted to watch it. Like, we were renting.
Yes, yeah.
Might have even still been VHS, I'm not sure. But like probably got to pick one and they picked one and then we were watching that. And I was like, not in the mood to watch it. I think it probably changed my mind a little bit because Claire Forlani is in it and she's gorgeous. So I was like, okay, maybe I can watch this.
And Andy Hopkins and Brad Pitt would normally be in like action or more action orientated movies.
Yeah, or Remains of the Day. It's one or the other. But anyway, I was
Yes.
watching it kind of going, oh, I don't want to watch this. And then he gets absolutely demolished. So like I'm assuming people have seen this or know the premise, but
Yeah.
it's a romantic film. Um, Claire Forlani and Brad Pitt, and they've got the typical meet cute at the start where the two characters like bump into each other and they're talking and they're like, oh, they're so nice together and they're falling in love, and then they go their separate ways and they turn back to look at each other, and he turns back to look at her while he's crossing the street, and he gets absolutely destroyed by
Nailed.
two
Yeah.
cars in different directions.
Yeah.
And I was like, it, like I said, I was only watching because Claire Forlani was there, and I was like, I don't want to watch this film. And then that happened. I was like, what is this film?
Yeah.
Was that funny or shocking, or I don't know what that was supposed
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah.
Meet
Um,
Joe Black.
Yeah.
we've gone
Yeah.
from Master of None to Meet Joe Black somehow. I'm not even sure how we got there. Um,
Um,
Jamaican
Master
accents.
Nun being
Yes.
based. Yes.
I was saying Master of None, Aiden, as far as I can tell, is shot in London for New York.
Oh, weird.
So see if you can spot that. And then Kev had an interesting fact about a film called Greta, but we won't say where the film was shot. You should just watch it and see if you can figure out where it was shot, unless you've already seen or heard.
I haven't seen it, no.
Yeah, before you edit the podcast, you should watch Greta tonight. I believe it's on Netflix, and it's wild.
Okay, what's the genre?
Thriller.
Sorry about the interruption, folks.
No,
Have you?
You're fine.
Am I completely killing a conversation here about Master of None, or are you good, or we keep going or move on?
Brad Pitt, terrible accent in Meet Joe Black was also the point we were going to say, but it's worth checking out. It's so tone deaf, it's awful.
I have seen that scene where because it's like in context it's supposed to be surprising that this man speaks the patois specifically to the old lady, but if you take that scene out of context and you see him talk to the old lady and then you see her granddaughter look at this white guy,
yeah, but like
some white bullshit.
It's just, I just think it's funny, like in any scenario, like, you know, I'd rather like, obviously he probably didn't want to do it, but like speak a different language.
Yeah, it's just a bad idea. There are white people from Jamaica who speak with that accent, you know what I mean? But it's like, it's just a weird thing to stick in a movie.
Let them do it.
Yeah. Well, it's the Miracle on 34th Street moment where Santa can speak every language, you know? They just could have chosen German.
Just do that, but that's it. That's it.
You're all probably ignoring the fact that he worked really hard with his dialect coach, and he just wanted everybody to know how hard he worked. And that's probably something you guys are leaving out of the equation here, you know.
Also on Netflix then is the Bo Burnham special, Inside. Did you watch that, Kevin? I know
I did not,
but
feel free to talk about it.
It's great if you want to have an existential crisis. It's perfect.
Yeah.
As of Thursday night, which is just past, I have transitioned to that stage in my life where I am somewhat, for the most part, content.
Oh, well, we can fix that. Watch Bo Burnham Inside.
Yeah, I was going to say, existential crisis, not ideal. Not ideal.
You can't be that content if you're not bulletproof against, you know, existential dread. It's a good way to test how content you are.
I said pretty content. Yeah, but sometimes like I do that whole thing of like, oh, that made me sad. It's gone. I forget about it.
I never watched much of Bo Burnham because I think at the time I was kind of like, I was in that category. I had Tim Minchin and Bill Bailey to a degree. And it was like, these guys are doing a really great job at this. This is a teenager on YouTube. I don't entirely need to pay attention. I did watch
I thought he was
2 years ago, I guess, when I was making that film. Like, I just plowing through YouTube content. I found Tough Crowd and The Green Room. And I watched a load of that. So I did see this interview with him, 10 years ago with Marin on it and Ray Romano and a bunch of people. And was like, oh, this guy's 20, but he's actually kind of sharp, and like my prejudice against youth was held up. Like I thought he was pretty funny, and it kind of changed my mind on him, but I did not go and watch any more of his content. I watched Inside. I really enjoyed it. I think it's
amazing.
It's pretty damn good, and like I'm seeing people go, oh, he's having a breakdown live in making this special, and it's like, well, he watched the take and decided whether or not to do it again. So like, yeah. I don't doubt that he felt these emotions and went through these thoughts and processed his take on the world. But we are watching a constructed piece of media, and like that's a concept that he's played with in the past as well, where he does something and makes it look like it's an accident, but it's part of the show.
Yeah, it's your shtick. But mental breakdowns are hard. Going through essentially rehearsed material and performing it, and then potentially doing takes or edits, like you really possibly couldn't do that if you're experiencing like a mental breakdown. I'd imagine but your brain literally wouldn't be thinking about
there's
that.
A moment in it where you're watching a recording of him talking about his contemplating suicide, and like he prefaces it with he has no intention at all of killing himself because he understands X, Y, and Z. And he goes through this whole like thought process and analysis of what's involved in that. And then it kind of pulls out and you're seeing that projected onto a version of him that's clearly 6 months later, because it's hair and beard growth. And when we are talking about the constructed nature of this, I don't know this for a fact, but I would like to think that's a moment where he was quite low and he thought, I've recorded this, now is the time to watch this back and shoot this, because this is the emotional state I need to remind myself of this, and it will feed well into the.
I think a lot of it is real, and it's a decision to show it as well. Is the thing?
Yeah.
Is that like to show, despite whatever successes or despite how engaged you might be in your work or creating or whatever, you're still going to have these, troughs, valleys, whatever you want to call them, where you're burned out essentially, because everybody's kind of experiencing that at the moment, where they're burned out completely, and it doesn't matter.
Content.
Not Kev, because Kev's bulletproof to this sort of thing.
Well, he ate a wheel of cheese. He's good,
I'm
Just keep rolling.
almost content. I could watch it and ruin it for myself, but yeah.
No, I think I don't think it will do that, because as much as we're talking about the emotional state in which he made the thing, or the issues that he's trying to put on show for us to be, I don't know, vulnerable and real, even if it's artifice in some ways, the songs are funny. This is the thing. There are these interludes where you go, Jesus Christ, that's depressing, and then he sings Welcome to the Internet, and you're like, that's really sharp and really well written, and the sexting song is hilarious.
Jeffrey Bezos,
white woman, Instagram.
Okay, I'll check it out. It sounds good. It sounds good.
The song, like, there is this undercurrent of the exhaustion that, like, he's been trying to be famous, or he has been trying to create things on the internet for an audience since he was 16. And that's gotta be fucking exhausting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's showing us the toll it's taking on him. And, it's a performance, and it's, he's probably better than he comes across in the thing, but it feels true. It definitely, even if it's not true, it touches a lot of truth in people.
Yep.
People definitely identify with it.
Definitely.
Let me see, how old is Bo Burnham?
He turns 30.
Well, he's turning 30.
Watch him turn 30 while you watch it.
Yeah, he films the moment and then sings a song about it.
Brilliant.
It's pretty good.
Fair play to him.
But you see, that's cool, the thing.
Kind of how
was he turning 31 when he did that? We only have his word on this.
Yeah.
It's fucking artifice. Art is a lie, right?
But it's interesting that essentially he started in his bedroom making these ridiculous videos to making a Netflix special, essentially not in his bedroom, or whatever it is. I haven't watched it, but back in a confined space, or like
I was trying to figure out actually what room. Look, I think the name of his production company maybe gives it away at the end, but I think it's possibly an attic in his house. It's a very weird shaped room. So it's long and almost like a tunnel.
It's an attic.
Yeah. There's people are just all over this thing, so they're pulling up interviews where, like that Green Room interview where he just goes like, I have all of these thoughts, but I know for a fact that nobody wants to hear a 20-year-old tell you how the world works. And then one of the songs in this is called How the World Works. And he's turning 30, you know what I mean? It's like, that's a lovely little parallel.
It's also brilliantly dark with the sock puppet. It's very funny.
Oh,
so dark.
Yeah, it starts so child friendly, and then, this has sold me on the kid. Yeah, the kid. He's turned 30. Kid. This has sold me on him.
Yeah, I was kind of in a similar situation to you, in where I'd just seen clips of a song here and there that people shared and I liked, and I just never made a point of kind of going out to watch it. And I think just even in the last couple of months, I just saw interviews that kind of changed my idea of him. And then he's in Promising Young Woman also. He's quite good in that. So I was kind of primed to watch this, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I had no idea he was so tall. It's ridiculous. He's like 6'4" or 6'5" or something. It's like, he did not look tall, but he's tall. So there you go, he's tall. Now you know that.
I knew that he had sort of moved into, like, he had written that film 8th Grade, and it had been very well received.
What's the Jonah Hill one?
Late 90s?
I can't remember. Olivia Wilde, Jonah Hill, and Bo Burnham all kind of had these kind of written, directed things at the same time, and I found it hard to keep track of what was what.
Yeah. That was Booksmart for Olivia Wilde.
Booksmart was Olivia Wilde, which when I actually watched it, it was quite different from the other two, but I think Jonah Hill's and Bo Burnham's one are maybe kind of similar.
He mentioned in the show that he was having panic attacks trying to be funny, you know, like he just was having anxiety and panic issues doing the show, so he kind of withdrew from the stand-up or the live performance end of things that put him into film. So, given that, it's like, I'd love the idea that, like, he puts this on Netflix and never performs those live. I'd love that, you know? That'd be a nice little, like...
It is what it is. Like, it keep it there.
Well,
in that one place.
Yeah, because I was trying to sort of put myself in the mindset of that guy, and like, because he talks about the songs that he looks back on having written when he was 17, going, I don't think this anymore. And imagine, I'm sure this is just a thing with musicians. You write a song when you're in a certain point in life, but when it's a comedy song, you're taking big swings at themes and topics, especially that young. And it's like, I've got a huge audience that loves this, but now I'm 25 and they want me to play this song that I don't fucking believe anymore, you know?
It's like Blink-182, you know? It's like their songs were only, like, there's bands like Blink-182, but I always think it's like their songs kind of acceptable coming from a group of early 20s singing a song about, like, you know, what's the name again, or whatever it is, like, you know, but it's just kind of like, they can't sing their songs as convincingly nowadays as other bands can, you know?
I mean, I think historically, like Sweet 16 and Jailbait, and it's like, these are songs that were like when you were 17 and you wrote them, it's fine, even if it is a little fucking wobbly, but when you're 52 and singing a song about the 16-year-old you're attracted to, it's like,
cannot work. Yeah, it's like, but like, I think that must be tough for like Sabo and different things like that, like, especially like, you know, doing these bits, writing songs, putting stuff online, creating content, blah blah blah. And then, like, kind of like fast forward and say like 10 years, and like, you know, your opinion's different and things like that, like, but people can still hold you to that point, and it's just like, I'm a completely different person now, probably even atomically.
It's not even one of the songs, but when he's doing the sort of brand bit, like, it's a bit long, and I got kind of distracted in it, but like, there's no, where he's talking about brands associating themselves with civil rights and charity and environmental issues. It's like, the question is no longer, do you want a Bagel Bite? It's, will you support Bagel Bite in its fight against racism?
That's really true, yeah.
Such a good observation. Anyway, I enjoyed it. Check it out.
Maybe get an old Napoleon pizza and check it out.
Get yourself a Napoleon pizza.
Napoleon pizza.
Check it out.
Yeah. JFK's favorite ice cream was the Napoleon, I think. Strawberry, chocolate, vanilla.
I guess I wanted to move us on to, what have we got? We talked about Massey Universe. You're buying a bunch of comics, Kev.
Yep.
What have you been buying?
I have been buying. I'll be honest with you. I do it for the thrill. I do it for the thrills. I had a customer the other day, as I was working away, bidding on comic books for me.
Bidding on comic books?
Yeah.
You hand them the phone, eBay's there.
They were bidding on a comic book for me, and I won it. I like to believe we did it together. I couldn't have done it without him. But yeah, we did it together.
So what was the comic book?
It was, I think it was,
Jesus Christ! It's just the adrenaline you're after. You don't even remember the book anymore.
Pretty
you
much.
You got your endorphin rush, and you're on to the next thing.
I'm broke, but it was Moon Knight. It was a Moon Knight book. But yeah, like, you know, it's fun. It's fast. I get a thrill from it. People drink coffee. I buy comics online and go into debt. But my girlfriend's still here, so whatever. She's over it.
Okay. So what I was trying to get at was, you know, what's the comic? Let's get a little review of it. What would you recommend it? Not the emotional state that's, oh god.
Oh, I don't read them. I don't read them, Aidan. These are minor key issues that are pretty valueless, but God no, I put them in a plastic bag, and then put them in a stack of other books that I've wasted money on.
Okay, what's the what was the book you won?
It was a complete run of Moon Knight's Fist of Koshnu. and I got it at a very, 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 very reasonable price. Let me tell you, probably.
If only somebody could tell me what that storyline was about, that'd be maybe interesting.
The Fist of Koshnu thing. I think you could probably.
And maybe recommend it to me or
Google it. Google it. It's, you know.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Why talk about it on a recording where the three of us are together for an hour or two?
What year was the run?
I'll just wiki it.
Was it the 80s run?
It was the 80s, 80 to 85, I think. Was Fist of Koshnu? Maybe
Khonshu,
no, Fist
right?
of Koshnu. Khonshu was later than that, I think, actually, to be honest.
The complete run of Fist of Khonshu on the Marvel Unlimited app. You can check that out now.
Aiden, are you telling me that
issue
Kev
1.
could have just gotten all these on an app, but he, like an idiot, spent money on physical copies? What a chump. What a sucker.
Moon Knight 1980,
Wait, Aiden,
cover
did I
by
do
Bill
that?
Sienkiewicz, writer Doug Munch. So I'm going to read the first issue now.
Describe it to me.
Well, it's you know, it's the 80s.
Explain the printing process. What are the
like-
colors like? Or is it three color? What is it?
The colours are beautiful.
It's the classic sort of 4 colors before you got into sort of digital art in the 90s, and I like, especially in the app here, it's clearly the original colors.
They haven't recolored it. That's good.
Because lately they started remastering stuff, and I hate that. Everything gets shiny, everything gets highlights and speculars, and all of this art was designed for a 4-color print.
Hate it.
And I bought the Rocketeer collected because I'd never read the Rocketeer, and then I opened the fucking thing because it was wrapped in plastic and saw that it was completely recolored.
There you go.
I was
Never open the things you buy wrapped in plastic. Just preserve them forever. Put them away like Kev does. Just sink the money into them and then put them away. Banish it from your mind. And move on to your next purchase.
my comics. I like my comics to have like yellowish pages.
Yeah, that newsprint that's sort of feeling the tone.
Brown, yellowish,
dirty newsprint.
possibly soiled because I get them cheaper.
Nice. And you know it fulfills your kind of fetish. We won't get into that.
So yeah, the entire run is there on Marvel Unlimited. Bill Sienkiewicz covers.
He loves the Golden Age comics.
Yeah.
Lovely.
The Bill's covers are awesome.
Nobody's
Honestly,
gonna
like
get that.
so many of them.
Nobody laughed. Doesn't matter.
What did you say?
I said he loves those Golden Age comics, but it's a euphemism.
Yeah, I got it.
Nobody
because
got
of
it.
he's on me. I tried to get past the sort of golden shower thing.
Golden shower? Who said golden shower? That's disgusting. Aiden. No king shaming, but that's disgusting. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Well, you can't say no king shaping followed by that's disgusting. I think that's
did.
Okay.
I just did it. What are we talking about? What's going on here? What is happening? This is all because Kevin wouldn't read a comic and tell us about it.
So I got the Fist of
Stop
Fist
reading
of
off your phone and look at me
Khonshu.
and tell me what it's about.
But maybe it hasn't arrived yet. Maybe it hasn't arrived yet, so I haven't seen it. It's arrived. It's arrived.
I thought that this was a surefire topic for Kevin because he's been sending us pictures for the last week and a half of all the comic books he's been buying, and I'm like, this is great. The podcast has reignited a love of comic books.
I've had some of those books for years.
Cool. Okay, so you've been revisiting your comic books. You've got
my comic book collection.
There's some Daredevil stuff there. There's some Moon Knight stuff.
Daredevil.
These are two of your
Lots of
favorite
Moon
characters, yeah?
Yeah, Daredevil and Moon Knight will be up there for sure. And then I have a little bit of an old Black Bolt in there, a few of like the odd Avengers issue, but nothing too special. But yeah.
So what is it? What is it about Moon Knight as a character you like? Because this is a character that's getting adapted into its own Marvel show with Oscar Isaac.
Can I take a swing here?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's because he loves Batman, but he hates DC, and he just wants to like Batman, but he can't love DC, and it's that simple. Am I right, Kev?
Brian's right. He's probably right.
I'm not.
I'm. Why do I like Moon Knight? I think just at the time when I was like kind of getting really into comic books and all kinds of much younger, and I would be perusing the World Wide Web when it was a much more fun kind of place.
Bo Burnham wrote a song about that.
Before social media. Yeah. God, yeah, it was. But like, honestly, I was talking about that recently to somebody, and it was like going online was kind of like, I'm going to set aside some time to go online and look up this thing and enjoy it, and it was productive. Now it's so
stay on target,
mindless. Yeah, and I hope no one ever looks at my phone, because they'll think I'm insane with the stuff I look up sometimes. But then again, it's important.
Stay on target.
Look at me. Get your eyes off your phone and look at me.
Pixie haircuts. We were looking at them the other day.
Stay on target. What is it about Moon Knight that you like as a character?
I was going to say, I think when it came around to find the Moon Knight and reading about him and stuff, I thought it was very, very, like, just the dynamic between the balance between his superhero alias and then his other aliases. But basically, David Finch was a really, really, really favorite artist of mine years ago, and he did the relaunch of Moon Knight in 2006, I think, with Charlie Heston or Heston? What's his name?
We can find out, because that run is also available here on...
We're not in any way endorsed by this app.
There's an app for it.
I don't
so
have
it's the 2006 era.
Yeah.
Frank Darmada as the colorer, writer Charlie Huston, or Houston, depending on how you want to pronounce that. David Finch penciling.
Yeah, so basically that book really, like, even though kind of I'd read some of his more vintage stuff in collected form, like, collected books, whatever, over the years, that book in 2006 was epic. I pretty much have it all collected and stuff, but it's a really, really, really great book. But it's been a while now since I read it, and then I read Declan Shalvey stuff more recently and things like that. But yeah, Moon Knight and Daredevil. It's just like, I think really just Moon Knight came along and it's like, who is this guy? And I was just really I was like probably like 10 or 11 years old. I don't know how old I was, but I was just like, he looks different. I've never seen him before. I've never heard about him before. Who is he? And I read about him.
Now that's a great point that I guess we could touch on. I'm not sure if you've read any of this stuff, Brian.
Moon Knight. I read one or two issues of the Warren Ellis run with Shalvey, but not the full run. Yeah. Before that, to be honest, I wasn't too familiar with the character. So
yeah,
still not
I completely identify with that idea of, like, he's a little obscure as a character. He clearly has Batman vibes initially when they were trying to sort of make this character, like he's got a sort of parallel thing, and comics are full of that.
I do think at one stage they were pushing that harder as a bit of a joke.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but
away from that.
Comics are full of these sort of like parallel characters that never quite land. Like Hyperion is a kind of Superman thing, so is Sentry, and they never quite turn into anything. But Moon Knight's had a couple of swings.
Let's just say that right here. They suck.
In the same way that
I like Gladiator though.
In the same way that Miller's Ultimates with Brian Hitch established what the Marvel Cinematic Universe looked like. Can we say, or am I wrong in suggesting that Declan Shalvey and Warren Ellis's run on Moon Knight presented a version of this character that suddenly could be filmed? Or they could picture it in this world?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the idea of him as Mr. White, or whatever they call him, the guy in the white suit with the white car, just kind of tooling around in a very sort of businessman fashion. Did that ever happen in any of the older books? I never read it, so I'm asking you as the authority here.
So like, I thought, like, what did they call him? Is it Mr. Knight or something? It is.
Okay.
I can't remember what they call him. But
his real name's Spectre, is it?
Mark Spector is his real name. But like, kind of like, he has like different aliases. Like, say, essentially, like, Mark Spector was who he was. Then he got resurrected, I think, by Koshnu. And also, Moon Knight's origin is really, really, really hard to kind of actually pinpoint. Some of it's canon, some of it's not. Because he originally appeared in, like, Werewolf by Night issue 33 or something, where he was working for an organization hunting monsters or something. And then people kind of liked him, so when they kind of I think it was Marvel Spotlight 28 kind of came back, and he was actually...
Sorry to interrupt, Kev. I think that's the interesting thing that Ellis did with it, was that there's no kind of firm origin for the character, so I'm going to mix it and make that part of it in that which part of it is psychosis and which part of it is actually a thing that it's quite clever. I thought that when I was reading about it, because when I was trying to get into the character and kind of learn about it, I was like, I can't follow this at all. But Warren's take was, let's lump it all in and let's essentially use that confusion and write a story based around that, which I thought was kind of clever.
They definitely made him like much more kind of like unbalanced in recent years, you know.
That's always been my problem with him, is the density of his backstory. I don't know what's canon, what's to be bought into, what's attached to the current one. So I'm hoping that Clear Out Shelby did is gonna, or Ellis. I'm an art focused guy, so I always remember the artist's name more than the thing. But I'm hoping that clarifies a lot of stuff going forward. I guess it's a little bit of a reset.
What would you like to see in the film, Kev? Other than it being a good film, like what would you like to see?
Oh, is it a film or TV series?
Oh, it's a TV series actually. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's gonna, like, the whole pitch behind these series was that it would be, you know, a comparable budget. We'll see if that's the case by the time they get through the first run of these shows. Yeah. But yeah, what would you like to see other than it being like just a good show?
Yeah, kind of like I'd like them to kind of fully realize, like, kind of like if he ends up just wearing the white suit in terms of the 3-piece suit, I'd be like, oh, a little bit disappointed. I'd like to kind of just like make them embrace all the tropes that, because like Moon Knight is kind of basically like one of those characters that, like, it's like, you know, the way kind of in Watchmen, Night Owl was kind of a pastiche of Batman because of like X, Y, and Z and all that kind of stuff. It's like I think like Moon Knight's one of those, like, kind of, he embraces all those tropes and comic books and comic book characters and stuff, and they kind of just like go hell for leather with it. You know, the kind of way is like they fully just embrace it, and it is what it is with his moon copter and moon stars and all that kind of stuff, you know. But that Declan Shalvey one, I reckon that's what it's going to go to. It's like, I think it's like it's not too big a storyline to kind of execute on TV. It's, you know, it's character wise and all that kind of stuff. It's not as if it needs like a huge ensemble, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
well, it's very episodic. There's not a huge arc for the character in those 6 issues, and like it is 6 issues. Like the comic went on afterwards, but that Ellis run is 6. So for anybody listening, it's a really easy pick up and read stuff. There's 6 little standalone books. One of them's very much like the Raid. One of them's like an LSD or a magic mushroom sort of trip. He's got horror vibes. I can see them tying it into the sort of Blade, Doctor Strange end of things. It's just how much do they embrace the sort of horror aspect of the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward. Like Ghost Rider is still in the ether, you know, like there's a guy in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, and I didn't watch a lot of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, but I watched the Ghost Rider stuff, and they did a great job with him. Like, he looked awesome. I would watch more of that. They nailed, well, to my mind, they nailed it, you know. Have we covered Moon Knight?
I'm as excited for Moon Knight as I will be Daredevil. It's just frustrating that the bloody 2 characters I fucking love are getting TV shows as opposed to big movies. Not that the because I do think
there's
the
lots
TV
of
shows
rumors
are brilliant.
going around for a while that they're building towards I can't remember what the
Midnight Sun
kind of thing. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if that does happen. I think potentially those characters, because they're not derivative, but they're kind of quite similar to a lot of other things out there, and that a way to make them kind of fresh and interesting is to actually put them in a movie together. Because I think one of the most interesting things I heard about a Daredevil movie was to like set it in the 70s. I think it was Joe Carnahan, I think possibly. He put like that's how you make that character interesting. Like,
yeah, he did a concept mood board video.
I love the idea of Daredevil, but every time I try to picture what I'd like to see in my head of a Daredevil film, I don't know what I'd want, because I don't really know how you build a film out of it. He's a great character on the panel because he looks interesting, like the kind of red, especially in the older kind of print versions. It looks cool, but I think a way to make it interesting would be to pair him up with, you know, Blade and Ghost Rider and stuff like that. There's still rumors.
There's a very era-specific thing to Daredevil, though, around the sort of like culture of Hell's Kitchen, you know, and I don't think that's there anymore.
Yeah, 80s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah, the culture of Hell's Kitchen and the the sort of vigilante movies as well that you had in the 70s and 80s, And like his roots have always been kind of like he's a lawyer that's taking justice into his own hands, but he's also he's not a ninja. His dad was a boxer and he gets beat up just as much as so like I think when people think about him in a movie, you kind of think about the Batman route, but the truth is he's always been better as a blind dude who he takes his frustrations out with what he can't achieve, through the law, and then it's this that's the most interesting thing about him is the struggle within himself between, like wanting to do things the right way and then, just going out and feeding his demons, his ego. But I don't know that's I think the way to do it would be to do a Joker style movie, do a period, do it that way. Don't make him a superhero. Make him. It can still be an action movie. It can still be all these great things, but don't try and make him Batman. Yeah, do it in the style. Do it in the style of Joker. Like that'd be a win.
Yeah, more low
That'd be a
key.
win, an easy win, I think. There's still a rumor kind of persisting that Charlie Cox is going to be in No Way Home, but will it just be a nod to the shows, or is it with the intention to remind people that he's out there and he's going to show up soon in something else? Will it just be a little fan service, or will it be setting something up? And that's even if it's true at all, but people are insisting that it's happening.
Yeah, I get really worried about the multiverse and timeline stuff that the Marvel stuff is really leaning towards now, especially as we're going to talk about Loki.
I like the idea that they've already kind of referred to it as a multiverse war. I think that's an interesting take, that it's not that just that there's all these multiple versions, but that there's a reason why they all had to converge because of this war. I think that's something that stood out to me from Loki. I don't know if we want to move on to that now, but that stood out to me straight away, was that the fact that they referred to there being a multiverse war, like a war between these separate realities.
That's a lovely idea. So that puts a thought in my head, which we can get into as we start to talk about Loki. I just wanted to, I guess, I was thinking about this during the week, and the anxiety, or the way I become attached from comics like X-Men and like Marvel in general, is when we start introducing time travel, when we start introducing alternate dimensions. There's an arc in the book at one point where Tony Stark is dead, and they bring back, somebody goes back in time and fetches a teenage version of him. So you've got a wunderkind Iron Man knocking around who's like 18, and it just gets really fucking messy with continuity, especially over 30 years with a bunch of different writers taking different swings at it. And it's just like, this is going to get really weird, and we're going to fucking lose people, and it's going to kill the momentum of the MCU.
I think the problem with that has always been that they've tried to insist that there's a reason, and these things are all still connected. And that's when it becomes convoluted. I think the way to do it is that you can tell these separate stories that aren't connected. You can have these different versions of the same characters and that they don't connect. And I think that's kind of what they're doing here, is that, yeah, look, these are all the characters you know and love, but they're not actually in the same continuity. Because to try insist that they're the same, and, to try, when somebody says, hey, but this doesn't make sense over here, rather than saying, oh, well, it's because a wizard did it in, 3 issues ago and it actually makes sense. Just say, actually, no, it's a separate version. It's not the story you've been following. It's this different parallel thing that's separate. So it's familiar enough for you to kind of know because you've been keeping track. But I think it becomes messy when you insist that this is the same thing and it actually all makes sense because of this fucking bonkers convoluted logic. That's when it really starts to strain under its own weight. But if you just say, no, they're actually different, it's this and this.
And that's a lovely way of describing it, like straining under its own weight. The conclusion I came to, or at least the place of hope I landed on there, was that it wasn't going to end up being 8 different titles with 12 issues a year. That there is, to a degree, a guiding hand, and there's 2-3 films, maybe a series. Like the number of content elements that they're putting out is manageable. Does that make sense? And they're not doing... When they were writing that shit in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, they were making that shit up as they went along. Now they have the benefit of hindsight, and they can look at what worked and what didn't work, and they can streamline and move forward. And we've talked about before how the majority of people going to MCU movies aren't reading comics. So they don't care if it's a slightly bastardized version of, 10% of the continuity that's actually out there, as long as it's clear, coherent, and entertaining.
Yeah, and like the movies, ultimately are kind of a different thing, anyways. But I hope they do streamline them, and it just doesn't get too convoluted. Because I don't really care. And like sometimes even like watching some of the Marvel stuff, it's like, wait, like the movies, like who has the stone? Where did the stone come from? I can't remember.
For a while, they didn't know that stuff themselves, and there was a bit of confusion because they weren't quite ready to do anything with Thanos because they didn't really know how. It wasn't really until Guardians that they kind of figured out where he was going to fit, or how he might fit, or how that might look. Because up until then they really didn't know.
But like in terms of continuity and things now, like this is going to bring us onto it. We always give the spoiler warning at the start of the show. We're going to talk about Loki. Go watch Loki. We're dealing with 3 Lokis existing in continuity now. So there's the one that we saw that meets his end in Endgame. There's the one now that's the variant, and then there's the one in the hood. So that's
the
3...
one that died is gone though.
Sure.
So it's kind of 2.
Who died?
Loki.
When Thanos, yeah. Okay. Well, but I kind of...
I don't think we're really dealing with that version. I think that one's...
I would agree with you up until somebody decides to go back in time and starts talking to Loki Prime. Because now we've got a lot of time traveling going on.
I would have thought that Loki picking up the Tesseract and then being like or teleporting wherever, and then the TVA catching up to him. I essentially, like, because he was in that room looking at himself and what potentially is going to happen to him in the future of his timeline, the way the Watchers have it kind of planned out for him. And I'd imagine that's basically the same Loki. So as far as I'm concerned watching it, okay, if there's multiple dimensions and there's multiverses, then of course other Lokis exist, fair enough. But the way I'm watching it is the Loki that we're focused on is essentially the protagonist, and he's the one who's ultimately killed by Thanos. And then he's gonna, but at the moment he's being kind of, everything's on pause. He's been taken by the TVA, and they want him to get this other variant, or this other kind of like rogue Loki, But I think there's only 2 Lokis. There's the one that we see that dies in the future, which is a guy who's looking for a rogue variant.
But I'd be very surprised if the TVA put him back where they picked him up. And then he goes on to do Ragnarok and die in Endgame.
They'll mind swipe him. They'll do
but then why would Cap and Tony go back to the 60s or 70s?
Well, all that stuff has to happen.
Sure. See, this is... Yeah, let's drop it. There's no point talking about this end of stuff. Let's just talk about the show.
You can, but what I would just say is, like, kind of with this show is, like, kind of have fun with it. There's a blip. We'll just say that, like, when we were watching movies as they're coming out, we were unaware there's a blip in the timeline. And of course, the TV show, Loki's going to fix the blip and return back to normal and accept his fate, and maybe they kind of like wipe his brain or something. But all I'm saying is basically, like, kind of, in order for Loki to have died, he would have had to been successful in the TV show. So therefore, don't stress it.
You see what and Brian's being very quiet, and I'm going to just make this his theory, even though he never said it. But what Brian alluded to there is the concept that what we're seeing here is the beginning of divergence in timelines that leads to a new multiverse war, that leads to your multiverse of madness, which leads to having to pull all of your multiverses together, which leads to your X-Men and your Charlie Cox Daredevils coalescing into a prime timeline again. I don't know that that's the way they're going to do it, but everybody's looking for how are they getting the X-Men into this world at this point? How are they getting the Fantastic Four into this world? We've established that there was a multiverse war previously. If it goes a bit wobbly, we introduce a whole load of variation. We got Spider-Man No Way Home as well, seems to be introducing different dimensional stuff. I can see it, like, does it become an Avengers level end of phase conflict? Like end of Phase 5 is the Avengers 7, the multiverse
I think what we're going to see,
crisis.
my guess is
Some sort of crisis on Infinite Earths.
Multiverse of Madness is a Civil War scale film, in that it's going to bring together a couple of separate things. But Kang is going to be the kind of Thanos level threat,
yeah, Kang's
I
going.
believe. So Multiverse of Madness, the Doctor Strange movie, is going to be, like I said, it's going to set up the Endgame level thing in the same way Civil War set up Infinity War, in the same way that it was bigger. I still think of Civil War as Avengers 3 and not actually Captain America 3, because it is an Avengers movie. It just focuses very much on Cap, I think. But I think in the same way that Captain America Civil War was Avengers 3, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is going to be that. Kang is clearly, going to be the next thing, I believe. I think in terms of Steve and Tony, like Loki stealing the Tesseract and that being, branching off. It's kind of like the timeline is a stream, and you can go backwards and forwards. You have a lot of flexibility in terms of what can happen.
An endless stream.
Name the podcast, drink.
But certain things then diverge, and it's the things that diverge. It's the new rivers. It's the new kind of flows that go off that they gotta snip. So yeah, Loki can steal the Tesseract, forcing Cap and Iron Man to go back. That's permitted to happen, but it's the Loki having free reign is the branch. So he is supposed to steal it, but he's not supposed to do anything beyond that. That's where they've got to snip him. The hooded figure is reincarnated Loki after Thanos kills him.
That's fair.
I'm just guessing. But Norse mythology, reincarnation is the thing. Like the Ragnarok is a big thing, but everybody comes back after Ragnarok. Thanos kills Loki. Loki is reincarnated as the Norse mythology allows, and he comes back as this hooded, probably Lady Loki. I believe that's my guess.
Do you think it'll be the end of Tom Hiddleston then in
No.
the MCU?
Not at all. He loves that part.
He's in great shape. Yeah, he does. He's in great shape.
He does. He likes that part, but we have seen Marvel kind of clearing the house of these bigger contracts. Though I don't know that Loki's getting huge bank compared to what RDJ was on, Michael Downey.
He's definitely not, but he definitely enjoys doing the character, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
I would say what Brian said is interesting, albeit one of the things he said was wrong. Civil War is a Captain America movie. You have the first Avenger, Winter Soldier.
I know it's in the title.
Civil
It's
War.
still an Avengers movie, and you can't tell me otherwise.
It's a Captain America movie. Don't be ridiculous. Making Captain America...
There's more Avengers in Civil War than there is in the first Avengers.
That's wrong. There's making Captain America the best superhero trilogy, better than Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight stuff.
Sure. No disagreement, but it's still an Avengers movie.
No, it can't be an Avengers movie then.
It can be both. Of course, it
Can't be both.
So just as we've solidly entered Loki conversation.
Does Loki set up the TVA? Does Loki arrive at the end of all things because the other Loki's been collecting these little, reset bombs or whatever they are, and then we see Loki at the end of time, and out of the goodness he goes, my God, like without this thing here, there needs to be a TVA, and Loki sets up the TVA, and he becomes the greatest power in the universe, and it's no longer a show. He no longer needs to, bully and show strength to project strength, to hide his weakness. He actually becomes the person at the end of time responsible for setting it up. Loki is very, very important in Norse mythology and Ragnarok, and Norse mythology is very cyclical. And it would be kind of a cool nod to Norse mythology to have Loki be at the end of time and actually set up the TVA to protect. And it'll be a loop essentially, but much in the same way that Norse mythology is cyclical. And it'll be a nice thing for the character for him to. Norse mythology is bonkers, by the way. It'll give you a headache if you dive into it. Loki's his own mother. He's also a wolf. It's crazy. He's not his own mother, but it's that kind of bonkers stuff. I think that'd be fun. The way they've established that, he's had this realization, or he's had this confession where I don't like hurting people. It's a projection of strength to hide weakness, and he's been chasing power all the time, and to then realize that the power he's been chasing pales in comparison to where he is, and the fact that he's a trickster. And the fact that his very first kind of impression of the TVA is like, this is all bullshit. This is all for show.
The DMV.
This is a trick. So it'll be funny then, like if the God of Mischief actually does set up this silly bureaucracy to actually protect.
Oh, it's interesting. He calls it a trick from the very beginning, and he sets up the trick himself.
He sets it up himself. It's just like, hang on, this is exactly the type of shit I'd do, and he is the actual, central kind of
the architect
power.
of the
exactly.
The
I think that'd be
That's a
fun direction to. If they don't do that, then they're stupid, because that is a solid gold idea.
I just want to just do a little reset and bring us back.
Sure.
The first episode of Loki aired.
Let's
for anyone that hasn't
episode.
watched, for anyone that hasn't watched it, we pick up Loki at the end of the first Avengers movie when he has stolen the Tesseract as part of the sort of like Infinity War cycle. He disappears into the desert and is picked up by a bureaucratic authority that's designed to manage the timeline and prevent multiverse or variant occurrences. He is processed, and Owen Wilson's what would you call him? Case agent character, Agent Mobius, sees the opportunity of using this particular variant of Loki to help them catch a fugitive that is evading them and killing their teams. They just need to convince him to work on their side or see the error of his ways. And through the episode, they show him the life that he would lead. He comes to terms with what that means and sees his own weakness and kind of resigns to do better. And then is presented with the idea that the person that he's trying to hunt down is actually himself. A different version of Loki, a different variant. The assumption watching the show is that it's another past variant, but that's just our linear minds, or my linear mind. Brian clearly went, it's a future variant. It's the resurrection of the Endgame Loki. So I think that's a full sort of recap for anybody that hasn't seen the show. And I think it's there's not a huge amount of spoiler territory in there, but we do give lots of spoiler warnings. And now either go back 10 minutes and listen to our conversation.
It's a cycle.
With a little bit of context for it. It's a cycle. The cycle of Ragnar talk.
Or go to the Loki TV show and watch the animation. That explains how the whole time thing works. Great little animation.
With Tara Strong as Miss Minutes, which is she was the voice of Harley Quinn and one of the Powerpuff Girls and
billions of other things.
Hello Kitty in the 90s.
What's the story with Powerpuff Girls? Are they actually making a live action TV show, or is it cancelled? Is it cancelled?
That pilot did not get picked up. There was suggestion that they were shooting a retool, give another swing at it. Yeah. Loki though, very, very good. What did you make of the like there's no magic here moment? He can't use his magic, and then he looks out at the society out from that window on that balcony. I'm just inured to visual effects and futuristic cityscapes and stuff like that, but I wasn't blown away by what I was seeing, and I was kind of like, is he blown away by this? He's been to Nowhere and Nevedalir, and he knows intergalactic spaces. Why is he looking at that going, you said there was no magic here? Did that world look particularly magical?
I think it's just the scale of it. And I think maybe the scale doesn't come across as well on the TV, but the scale of it is certainly bigger than anything we've seen in the movies. And sure, he's been to other places, but I think the idea is that there's maybe a bit of magic in anything that we've seen so far, whether it's nowhere or any location you want to pick, or Asgard or something. But this is all based on.
Well, this is all based on what?
On technology existing outside of time.
Yeah, Loki also, though, at this point hasn't outside of Asgard, and like although Asgard has aspects of it that seem really futuristic and stuff, it also has that like medieval mysticism kind of stuff thrown in there as well. But like, and then he's been to Midgard, which is Earth or whatever. But yeah, this is kind of like, that probably was the most advanced race or technology he has potentially seen. I know he was involved in the aliens coming to Earth and all that kind of stuff, but like, they were on like flying hovercrafts. He's probably seen things flying before, but just in terms of architecture and whatever, that was probably a pretty. Even though I know Asgard is pretty fancy looking, but yeah, maybe it was just a whole futuristic city thing that he's never seen before.
Again, I think it's the fact that it was on TV screen.
You reckon?
I think it's just the fact that it was on a TV screen. It doesn't
sell
scale the same way.
Because I guess I didn't quite see why he would be impressed by that. Because we've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, we've seen people flying around in ships in societies. We've seen Kandahar. Is Kandahar? No.
Yeah, but that's in
Xandar?
That's in the quantum realm. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the place where the Nova Corps were, and like we've seen space-based societies. We've seen the Cree. We've seen.
But again, I don't think the scale came across. I think there's a bit of what would you say? I think there's a few kind of like impossible kind of structures hidden in the background of those things that don't really. There's a sense that there's this convergence of kind of separate planes, and that they're almost mirroring each other, and that it's a sort of it's not just the density of it, but it's that there's a sort of an impossible geometry happening in there, is the impression I got. It's a sort of like an infinite hallway. When you kind of put a camera against a mirror, there's a sense of that kind of thing happening, and it's like, how could something so complex and dense exist without some form of magic, was the sense I got from it. Go back and look again. That when I saw it, I immediately thought of like, that infinite hallway,
like the Escher stuff.
Yeah, something similar to Escher,
Okay, I didn't quite read that. I guess I did.
That was my impression, because
that would make more sense.
It seemed to me that there's like a kind of a top and bottom, and they're converging on a vanishing point, and that there's things kind of emerging and entering, or that kind of space. And it's like, how does that make sense if magic doesn't exist here?
Anybody unfamiliar with the artist MC Escher, famous rapper back in the 90s? Check his stuff out.
Yep.
Famous for his non-Euclidean geometry. Big fans of that here.
Very interesting flows.
Very interesting flow.
Ahead of his time.
And behind his time.
I also thought, though, when Eddie, you were saying like Loki sees his future, how it plays out, and he can do better. I think he kind of meant as in like, the way I perceived it, maybe it's just the way you phrased that, but I didn't understand. But it's kind of like the way I perceived it, I was like, Loki got real freaking angry, and he was just like, you know what, fuck that ending. I'm gonna destroy these people. So I don't think he's like in a good place of like, I have to right my wrongs. I think he's just like, I'm not gonna bow to anybody, and I will, like, whatever happens there ain't happening.
But like Brian's got an interesting point around like looking at the things we're being shown are used. Like, I didn't look at the reset bomb and the idea that this Loki is grabbing these things before they can be used, and that there are dead gods and there's dead Asgard, and what does it mean to, I don't know. Let's find out.
How do you think of these things, Brian? To be in your brain for 1 second. Fascinating. I'd probably go insane.
If you were to look into his brain, you'd probably see a lot of non-Euclidean geometry.
Lots of that.
He's got a big old wrinkly brain. My brain is pretty smooth. I can feel my brain like rub off the back of my head sometimes. It's like just slides past it.
Soft, hard brain, like a pebble.
Yes.
Smooth.
So
we'll
keep watching Loki. It's good. I enjoyed seeing Owen Wilson as well.
I thought it was a little long on the recap stuff. I knew it was going to have some of that, but I felt like they spent a little bit longer there. But Wilson's fun. I like
how many episodes?
6.
Sorry. That's too little.
And we wasted one of them just explaining Loki's backstory. Do you know what I mean?
I like the idea, and I don't know if I'm kind of right or wrong in this, but I get a kind of a detective vibe where they're like going to crime scenes and stuff. And then I heard that
the Time Wire.
I heard the
Or did your wrinkly brain crevices
I heard the creator of the show say that they referenced 3 kind of serial killer shows, and they said the best 3 serial killer movies. So straight away I was like, well, Zodiac and Seven, and then the third one clearly being Silence of the Lambs, and that's exactly what they're referring to. They said Zodiac, Silence of the Lambs, and Seven are a bit of an influence on it. So much so that apparently there's a needle drop in episode 2, which is a direct reference to Seven. So I'll be kind of interested to see that. But I like that potentially it'll have a bit of a Zodiac 7 vibe to it in Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston.
The guy in the hood's going to be Kevin Spacey, right?
We don't say his name around here. We don't say his name in these parts. You can just cut that bit out. But anyway, I like that straight away when they were in like the 1500s in France, I was like, is this a murder mystery show? And apparently it is. I was like, that's cool. I'm down for that.
Yeah, the bit where he's like just seeing a guy in a suit with like detectives around him, just sort of crouched down over a body.
Yeah.
Still warm.
I have to say, after say I haven't watched WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then episode 1 of this, I would say episode 1 of this pretty good. Like, in terms of potential, it's a lot of fun.
I think this is a much better idea of what it is and how it's going to go about it. I think it's going to be more consistent in nailing its intentions than the other 2 shows.
It's got a necessity to really figure out a structure. Because it's playing with timelines and where people are in them and how they're relating to each other.
And they got the right guy for the job.
Nail that down.
He's a writer on Rick and Morty, so
okay,
that's a good bet in terms of every time they opened a portal, I was kind of laughing to myself because. So yeah, the guy who created this show, he was a writer on Rick and Morty, and he's also written the latest draft of Multiverse of Madness. So this show and Multiverse of Madness are very, very closely connected.
Okay.
I was going to say I have a gripe or something, but then I say grape, and then I start thinking about grapes.
Grape.
And you can grapes, but do you ever have the candy floss grapes?
No.
They're grapes you can buy in a supermarket that literally taste like candy floss. I've had them. You can get them Super Value or wherever. We're not sponsored by Super Value, but if Super Value were interested in sponsoring us, I'll take
some.
That's a lovely segue grapes. Onto we watched the end of Sweet Tooth.
Brian, did you watch Sweet Tooth?
I have not yet.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean I listened in last week, so look. Don't spoil something like Seven for me. Don't spoil, Fight Club for me. I didn't mean to pick 2 David Fincher movies there. Don't spoil that kind of thing. Everything else, spoilers don't have an adverse. Yeah, don't spoil Endgame. When it's the culmination of 22 films, but everything else, spoilers don't actually have that much of a negative effect on your experience, I believe. So talk away.
I thought the DB Cooper, it was unfortunate, it was a bit of a gag as opposed to a big story element.
That was a shame.
Sorry. Sweet
onto
Tooth.
Sweet Tooth.
that is a good point.
Sweet.
Because it became such a footnote in the show, despite being such a kind of key part of the marketing. I kind of glossed over it there because it didn't be what I wanted it to be.
Worth mentioning though, because it was made out to be quite. It was made out to be kind of a big thing. DB Cooper's such a fun story. It turns out they were just having fun with the idea that, hey, what if this thing is, was just exactly a really nice idea. I liked it. It's just a shame that's all it is.
Like we do see him in a suit in the marketing as well, that ragged up one as well. So maybe it becomes something.
It could, yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing where this show goes for Showa, and maybe next episode I'll get some candy floss grapes and get yourselves some stews, people.
A wheel of blue cheese on it.
I can't eat blue cheese.
Octopus
or some blue bubble gum.
I'm gonna
Kablooey.
Oh yeah, Kablooey, yeah.
So last week we covered Sweet Tooth through episode 1 and 2. I watched the rest of the series. I really enjoyed it.
Me too.
I like everything it did, really. I think one or two of the hybrids start to look a bit silly. I would have preferred if they stayed a little more like Gus, because they introduce. It's not a spoiler at all, Brian.
Barry or Billy or
Bobby. One of the like maybe the third or fourth hybrid you actually meet is essentially a gopher on its hind legs. Like it's a CG creature, I guess. Or maybe there's a degree of practical effect in there, but it's odd and kind of limited, and it's like this is a lot of, I don't know. He does serve a point in the show. It's just it's a weird choice to have something this extreme in this show. You're making your life harder is basically where I.
Well, I think, but I think. I know that they do it in the show and stuff, but I think there is it serves a plot point to a degree in terms of, like, even like, obviously people feel like it's humans versus the hybrids, it's us against them. However, even within a hybrid, there's also divisions in terms of ones that look more human and ones that look less human. Obviously, the ones that look less human are capable of more animal things. The people who look more human are capable of less animal things. And then you probably have the middle ones, which is like they have the human elements and they have the animal elements. It's kind of the best of both worlds to a degree.
I think that's really my only note on the show. Like, not that they need my notes. I was stepping away from it. Like, because one of the things I said.
They do, though. That's what test screenings are.
Email it to them, because you miss. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Email it to them, Aiden. Tell them that you're uncomfortable with that grotesque baby animal thing, that it repulsed you to your core, that you despised it. The very notion that an animal could be sentient disturbed you, and you're angry. Just send them a gentle reminder.
Okay, yeah, I will. It's just Michael Denny Jr. at gmail.com, right?
Don't forget Susan.
That was a mistake. It was
Susan and Michael.
Is there a Susan Downey Jr.?
Yeah, she's
his
the
wife.
producer.
She produced the show.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know people's names. I don't need to know people's partners' names. I don't even know my own partner's name. I do.
Well.
Don't
put you on the spot.
We're
write it down on a piece of paper.
Guys. We're friends. We're all good here. She's actually not even in my phone.
Can you spell it?
Yeah, spell it.
Nah, obviously I'm not going to spell it for legal reasons, legality reasons, safety reasons.
How many E's before you get to the M?
This is a real softball. That was a real easy one there.
Two.
What?
Before
you get to the M.
Oh, I honestly, she's in my phone as her name, and I had to, it's her sister's name afterwards. So it's like, it'd be like, say, Brian, Aiden's brother, that kind of thing. Oh, it's one E before
yes.
the M. God
you had
damn
to look
it.
it up though, so it doesn't count.
Yeah, we're 3 years together. Yeah, she's literally in my photo as Emer Syme's sister. That's because that's how I met her.
That's the clip of the week.
Don't do it every time.
Sweet Tooth is very good. I enjoyed it
Yes.
immensely. It's set up nicely for the next season. The villain looks like Dr. Robotnik.
Yes. Yeah, he does.
It's a good example I keep coming back to because we keep talking about budgets and the perceived value of the production design that we're seeing on screen, and they're doing a great job compared to a Jupiter's Legacy, which is, again, the problem with Jupiter's Legacy is I just think they just reached too fucking far, or they set their set their sights too far. There's great stuff in the show. I don't mean to shit on it. Ever since I found out that the actress that played Chloe liked my drawing of her on Instagram, I really want to walk all that back and just go, it's an amazing show.
But I would say like kind of obviously actors and stuff get on board with these things and they read the script and like they may have read the source material and all that kind of stuff. You could be excited for it, how it's going to be actually visualized and comes together. Like I think it's so risky.
I was surprised
for, like say, actors
last week. Jason Duhamel. I'm pretty sure his name's Jason. Jason Duhamel. No, he posted a photo shirtless, but like wearing his beard and wig, just like, you know, being disappointed that the show was cancelled, and then saying something to the effect like, you know, Hulu, you up? What are you doing? Or something like that. And it's like, does he not know how this deal was structured? Like, Netflix own Miller's properties. Does he know who owns Hulu? I just felt bad because I was like,
yeah,
does he not know?
I think it's a fun way to, you know, I'm sure he knows. I think it's just a fun way to engage with the fan base that actually enjoyed the show.
Brian, he's beautiful, not stupid.
I don't know.
I think it's a fun way to engage with the fan base, and if he can rile them up enough, we've seen what can happen.
Yeah, but
in terms of shows getting revived.
Hulu can't pick the show up.
I know.
Like,
but it's not about that. It's just about making the fans react.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying.
Not like
if
that.
Suddenly
this is not like He Who Shall Not Be Named situation where they're lobbying.
I know.
Yeah.
But what he's hoping, I'm putting my thoughts into Josh's mind here.
You can do that. Like, good God!
If you do that,
you should be on the show.
If you
You're
do
like a
that
brainwave or
from
something.
a position
I haven't watched the show. I have no idea what I'm talking about here. Does Brainwave do that? Can he do that? I don't know.
Yes.
Brainwave.
If you come at it
that
from
dude
a
looked like
place
the drawing.
where you know how the
cool.
deal is structured.
Clearly a villain, though. I watched minutes. I'm sorry, I watched minutes of that show, and I was like, he's the bad guy. Clearly.
I love the both of you. He is the bad guy.
If you want to start again, whenever you are ready, I'm ready to jump right over what you're saying. 3, 2, 1, go. You take your time.
If you watch his actions from a position of like assuming that Josh is informed around the structure of the deal, you know, he can be engaging with the fan base.
I feel like he's not, though. That's my point.
That
he could be listening.
That ditzy country boy beefcake just wanted to get more of his TV show made, and he's just crying out into the wind, hoping somebody will hear him.
What I'm saying is he's barking up the wrong tree.
And it can't be Hulu because, as ditzy as he is, he has no idea about how the contract was structured. You know,
I never said that.
I know, but I don't blame anybody. Like, I don't blame any actor for being like, here's my chunk of that superhero money. Fucking yes, this could lead on to X, Y, and Z and be really pumped. And then you have Jupiter's Legacy, which through no fault of theirs, I think obviously like the script had issues, different things had issues. Why they just didn't stick to the bloody book, I don't know. But it's just like, I kind of feel sorry for him.
I feel sorry for him. It's a bad move to badmouth your employer, basically, is what I'm saying, because that's what it boils down to.
I don't think anybody is going to be offended by it. Netflix is like it's kind of like Netflix is a robot that doesn't have feelings and just option stuff constantly. Aiden, stop.
Sweet Tooth was good.
Sweet Tooth was good. MODOK.
I didn't get a chance to watch that this week.
Okay.
I don't think there's
right.
too much point getting into MODOK if we haven't all watched it. I think it's not like a Loki where we're going to watch episode on episode on episode. I think, and discuss it here on the podcast. I think maybe we can watch a bunch of them and come back and see how we feel about it at the end of season 1 or 2 episodes in.
Because I'd love to watch a load of it, get a little bit,
like
you
like to watch an endless stream of content. Is that it? Name the show. Take a shot. Take a shot, everyone. Take a shot.
I watched the movie Infinite.
How was that?
We have talked about that a little bit in the last couple of weeks. It was frustratingly good in places and infuriatingly bad overall. There's clearly a shit ton of money gone into it. There's an opening car chase with like a Ferrari tooling around Mexico City in like the mid 80s. It looks great. But then the next time you have a car chase, it's an Aston Martin Transformer for some fucking reason. Like, it's driving around and suddenly it's armor plated and the steering wheel is changing places inside of it. And it's like, why are you doing this? Can't it just be a car? They get on a jet that has the logo of their secret society embroidered into the back of the headrests and on the exterior of the thing. And it's like, why is everything branded? There's a lot of cool stuff in this show, or in this movie. Unfortunately, the movie overall just does not work. I'm not going to suggest that we all go and watch it and talk about it. I'm just bringing it up here towards the end of a podcast as a footnote. Just go, there's a good cast in it. There's some fun action. Oddly enough, watching the opening scene, because it deals with reincarnation, we meet the guy that Mark Wahlberg was before it was Mark Wahlberg. And I want to watch that guy in the movie. Like, for some reason, Mark Wahlberg's big fucking head just annoyed me for the rest of the film, and every time it flashed back to that guy, I'm like, this guy's a cool guy. I liked that guy, and who didn't really give a shit about Mark Wahlberg. Jason Mantzoukas was very funny. I enjoy a good Mantzoukas appearance. I'm trying to justify the rest of this topic.
Would you recommend the movie?
Not if you had to pay for it.
Marks out of 10?
5. There's just stuff in it like we go very quickly from, like he's mentally ill, which is just he's remembering his past lives and dealing with the fact that he's impoverished and trying to get a job in this position, to somehow he has a forge and is making a katana from scratch. And
Mark Wahlberg.
And it's like,
cool.
That just comes out of, he goes from sitting in what looks like a sort of London suburb apartment type of thing, sort of these sort of apartment blocks. I don't know where they shot the thing, but he goes from like sitting in his bedroom in there to his forge. Yeah, I know. To his forge, makes a katana and goes to sell it in exchange for some antipsychotic drugs. And it's like, this is a weird fucking dot connect. Like, it's cool that he makes a sword and has the memory to do it. Make yourself a katana and buy some antipsychotics.
See if I can shop it around London, buy some antipsychotics.
So Infinite, I mean, if you've got time to kill, it's worth a look. But
the Barbican, that was fun. That was another fun thing I did. Walked around the Barbican.
What's a Barbican?
It's a big old dirty building.
Nothing to do with food?
I mean, they sell food there. It's not a barbecue, no.
Okay.
No, I know that's where your brain went.
Yes. Also, question. If you couldn't sleep, you just couldn't sleep, people couldn't sleep anymore, do you think you'd just be like, you just kind of get into a state where you're lying down and you meditate and you relax enough with that? Or do you think you'd go crazy?
No, you'd die.
You'd die eventually with no sleep?
100%.
You couldn't just like close your eyes.
Your brain shuts down. It needs the.
You'd lose your mind. Your brain would eat itself.
Yeah.
How many? Eat itself. Yeah. How many days?
How many days? My record was 3. I don't recommend it. Don't do more than 3.
3 days no sleep.
You will trip balls. Properly.
I'm not going to
It's
do it.
It's fucking terrifying.
I'm not going to
don't do more than 3 days, definitely. You will die
No.
after 50 potentially, so don't even try for it. Don't do
I
it.
watched a movie where that was a premise, but I thought it'd last longer
No.
if you could just chill.
No.
You can't even like go into deep meditative states and just chill.
There's a congenital insomnia you can get where you will sleep less and less and less and less and less, and they can't cure it and you'll die. Sorry, Ian.
No, it's okay. It's just like I'm marveling at the way that this has wandered unstructuredly into this topic.
I love sleep. Love talking about sleep. We don't even understand sleep. We know nothing about sleep.
We know very little about sleep. We do know that, like in the wild, there are animals that just do not sleep. But what happens is that the various hemispheres of their brains go into an essentially low power mode, so that like a shark is swimming and the left lobe or the left side of the brain is functioning while its right side is in low power, and the left side. So it sort of alternates in order to get that recovery that it needs. And then there is a connection around rodent-style animals that started burrowing and developing a sort of safe haven or a den where they could feel safe and for the first time just completely shut down and go into sleep. So that's some of the sort of evolutionary theory that I remember learning from David Attenborough style shows over the years about the concept of sleep and why we do that as opposed to animals that you just see walking around for fucking ever, or being animals that are in such a heightened state that they can be asleep just up immediately again, it's just like low power mode. But we have wandered off the endless stream. We are now a variant that needs to be trimmed by the TV Aiden, and I'm going to try and bring us back to it's not bad, right?
I watched Iron Man 3.
You watched Iron Man 3. So you're still doing your rewatch of the Marvel films,
yes. Yeah?
How did you find Iron Man 3 on... Like, you mentioned recently that you had only seen Avengers twice in the cinema and once at home, maybe. You haven't
maybe,
seen
yeah. Iron Man 3 I only saw once in the cinema.
Right.
And this is my second time watching it. I actually really enjoyed it, second time round. It does suffer a lot in the final scenes and all that kind of stuff.
It's very frustrating watching it after the first Avengers movie when you're starved for more Iron Man and you watch it and you go, what is this shit? But if you watch it as a buddy cop movie and just ignore the fact that it's supposed to be Iron Man, it's fun. Ben Kingsley is hilarious in it. He's so good.
It also does a lot to serve that it's not like, it's like kind of like I couldn't get into Iron Man's suit probably because of the excess amount of skin I have around my waist. By skin, I don't mean I have an excess amount of overflowing hanging skin. I'm trying to imply I'm catching it. I have a few extra pounds, just a few, not too many. I'm content.
Kevin, you're looking a bit like Ben Kingsley, actually.
Yeah, I realised that the other day. I did realise that the other day. That's not a great look. And we're talking about Mandarin Ben Kingsley, not Gandhi Ben Kingsley, because I do not look like that.
What was his name? Was it Trevor
Slattery?
Nigel?
Trevor Slattery. But I was going to say though, I watched it. I actually really enjoyed it. It does, kind of when Guy Pearce's character breathes fire. It's just like, why? Who? What adult decided we should breathe fire? That would be cool. People would like that. No, anything that's not a dragon or a robot and breathes fire is stupid.
Disagree.
So did you enjoyed it on rewatch?
Yes.
The third act, though, was a problem for you.
Emer hates Iron Man, though. She hates him.
Hates him?
She thinks he's the most obnoxious, most selfish, most awful person in the world. When he's like... He was just like... say the Pepper Potts in the movie, everything I do for you. If I lose you, if I can't take care of you, I have nothing. All of this is for you. And Emer was coming around going like, if that's true, he's a really nice guy. Yeah. But... then he's like kind of, Mandarin shoots or Mandarin does whatever, and then he's like kind of like, I decided you're dead, buddy. This isn't revenge, or this isn't a mission. This is plain old revenge. I'm just coming to collect the body bag. You're already dead. And then he gives him his dress. Emer was like, oh well, like that's a really selfish thing to do, and it is, of course it is, And then he has to deal with the consequences of that, and he almost gets killed.
Emer is riding the roller coaster of Tony's personality and the changes that he goes on. So like, let's see how she handles, Civil War and Infinity War and where Tony ends up, the relationship he gets with Spider-Man in particular. Like, that's... Do they... Now I'm just connecting the dot. Is that sort of father figure role what sort of precedes the sort of desire to have the kids with Pepper that we see in Infinity War?
Yes.
I never connected that dot. I'm very slow. Turns out House is a parallel for Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, how did you not catch that one?
I finished watching season 8 of House, and there's like a retrospective episode, and they literally put a title card on screen called House MD versus Sherlock Holmes, and they talk about it, and I'm like, the fuck how did I not see this?
Especially the Wilson Watson thing. I mean, it's right there. Right there, buddy.
His address is Baker Street.
Right there.
Oof,
you got there in the end, though.
Is that... I've never seen it, so...
It took seeing a promo shot for Elementary and going, that just looks like a promo shot for House. And you then going, well, House is very much Sherlock Holmes. And I went... Fucking hell. So you're working your way through the Marvel movies. Iron Man, what was your summation on that? Third act problems?
Yes. Better second time around, for sure.
Cool.
And no one wants to see anybody breathing fire.
I hate it as Marvel Iron Man movie. As a buddy cop movie, it's fun. I often quote Slattery's I panicked, but then I handled it.
Yeah.
Love that.
He is actually excellent in it, to be honest. There's a lot, like, that's the thing though, second time watching it, there's a lot more I really like.
There's lots of good stuff in there. It's just it just sucks as a fucking Iron Man movie. Yeah.
And it's just frustrating.
What do you think of the Shane Black of it all? Like, there's definitely an association that Robert Downey did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang with him, and like he vouched for Shane Black, I think, directing that movie. He kind of helped and lobbied him, because I think there was a suggestion that Shane Black pushed for Robert Downey Jr. when he was at a low point in his career.
Absolutely.
I don't know what happened in terms of that movie. Maybe it was off the back of Avengers and they were a little bit freaked, and everybody was a little bit freaked, because not a great Marvel movie. Iron Man movie, not the best Iron Man movie, but what I was going to say, it's not Shane Black's best movie, and Shane Black as the director, I absolutely love. And I think it was more of a case of like, it was like, what was the follow up ever going to be?
This is
enough,
the thing that we keep forgetting.
Like my first girlfriend.
About the Winter Soldier, is that it was the first solo movie that really set a tone and a path for everything that was to come, and it really said, they can be genre films within the Marvel universe. It can be a spy thriller kind of thing within the Marvel universe, still have that connective tissue, but still be its own thing fantastically. And that's what Iron Man 3, like, I remember Shane Black talking about his idea for Iron Man 3 being this techno thriller on an international scale. I was like, that sounds amazing. And what I pictured in my head is what the Winter Soldier ended up being. But that's what I pictured for Iron Man 3, and it's not that at all, because they were still figuring so much of it out. They did a couple of solo movies. We'd only had one Cap movie, and then like there's 2 Iron Man movies, 2 Thor movies. They don't really work. Like I said, Iron Man, the first one, when I rewatched it, a year or 2 later, after loving it in the cinema, it's quite weak from the second act onwards. They still hadn't figured any of it out. The fact that Avengers is as good as it is, we've still kind of forgotten, because there was still a question of how are they going to do all this like well, and they did it beyond well. And then it was like, okay, it felt like, oh, they know where they're going here with this, and then Iron Man 3 came out, and it's like they still don't know what they're doing with these going forward. They really don't have a clue. They're winging it. They know what they're shooting for, but they don't know how to do it yet, and that's what Iron Man 3 is. And Winter Soldier was the first time where I felt like, okay, there's a stronger sense of how to proceed with these, how to do something different with them, but still have them be in this universe. That was the first time we saw them do that, and that's something that Winter Soldier doesn't get enough credit for.
It's realizing the sort of concept that people have said where, comic book movie isn't a genre. Comic books are a medium in which every genre
It's like calling
exists.
book adaptations a genre, It's like calling Harry Potter a genre. It's not.
So, I mean, a comic book movie can be any genre, which is cool. And it does leave room for, Loki to be a serial killer show. Well, I think that is... I mean, I have a bunch of other things on my list, but, I don't think they're really worth talking about too much.
He's useless to us now.
Yes.
Been talking about food for 2 fucking hours, let's be real here.
I had to get him back from Masters of the Universe from pizza. He wandered again. So he's been hungry for a while, to be fair to him. God bless him.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say we should eat pizza the next time we do the podcast. But
nope, people don't like eating on microphones.
Yeah, they don't like eating on microphones. But we can just mute our microphones.
Much of my editing process is stopping us sniffling into the microphone.
I'm sorry.
I'm very sniffly. Yeah.
I'm very sorry.
I'm the same as well. I scratch my beard.
I'm all right. I whisper things to Aiden so he hears me.
You whisper
during
things.
The edits.
Yeah, that's it. He says things like that, and I just I don't hear it because I'm talking, but I know that I've got a little Easter egg to find once I start just listening to him solely in the edit. Just to run down quickly through the remaining things on my list. Battlefield 6, there's some trailer and some gameplay stuff. If you like Battlefield games, those should be fun. I will no doubt dig into that. Big destructive world, lots of vehicles, lots of explosions. Evil Dead video game. I mean, it looks cool, but I guess I'm still unsure what's cutscene, what's gameplay. There's no UI in the footage I've seen, so I'm very curious how the game plays, but it does seem like you can play as Hero or Deadite.
Kevin Harris looks
hilarious. Elden Ring put up some footage. That's more a scruff thing, so maybe he can tell us a little bit about Elden Ring.
Brief overview. It's a collaboration in some way between the Miyazaki who makes the Dark Souls games and George R.R. Martin. So they've collaborated on it in some way. I believe Martin wrote the lore for the game, so we'll see how that goes. It looks very much to me like Dark Souls 4, which is a good thing, but until we see more of how it plays out, the key differences being that it's an open world, I think, instead of a series of connected maps and kind of hubs and things like that. It's open world, and you can ride a horse. It's not a horse, but you've got a mount, basically. Those are the two major differences. Other than that, it looks just like Dark Souls 4, which is fine. I mean, I'll probably end up loving it, but until I know more about how it's actually different from the Dark Souls games, then it just looks like Dark Souls 4, which is no bad thing. But yeah,
cool.
We'll wait and see. Looks cool.
Then, I guess just in terms of next week, I have Streets of Fire to finally watch, and In the Heights is out, so I'm going to have a look at those things. We've got Loki on deck. We'll keep watching MODOK. Is there anything else coming this week that you guys are excited about?
Maybe I'll read some Moon Knight.
That'd be nice. You could tell us about it.